Hey everyone, Greta here. Today we are going to talk about in pigeon pose whether or not the knee needs to be set at a 90-degree angle. I'm sure a lot of us when we're doing a yoga practice, there might have been a chance where we come across with this cue, in pigeon. Either the knee has to set at a 90-degree angle or the shin bone parallel to the front of the mat, so something like this. So is that really it? What if I cannot do it? Guess what? In my opinion, no, you don't need that knee to be set at a 90-degree angle, nor does the shin bone needs to be parallel to the front of the mat. Now, let me just go back, and I think that we all need to understand what all these yoga shapes are doing to our body, okay? For pigeon, of course, there are a lot of things happening in pigeon pose, but the primary focus, we want to feel, stimulating in the front, actually in the outer thigh and the outer hip of the front leg, okay? So I think that for cueing people set with the front knee set at a 90-degree angle, that was more in the old days where yoga was used to train or for a specific group of people to practice. But then with our everyday life habits, and also yoga expanding so fast and so great, and also yoga is being used to be seen as a alternative therapy, alternative healing method. So by having such a fixed requirement, it might not be very helpful to a lot of individuals. So bear in mind that we want to, in pigeon, stretch the outer thigh and the outer hip of the front leg. So you might just want to experiment and see, how much of a bend in the front knee is needed for you to, achieve that or to get to that sensation. So generally when I do pigeon, I would just want to feel, here, especially my outer hip, something that is even of a stretch. It's nothing very focused on just one particular spot, but more evenly spread out. Nothing sharp, okay? Nothing tingling, nothing electric. Something that's dull, something that I know that when I can breathe into it and just maybe stay there for a little while, that dullness of the stretch would be lessened. It wouldn't stay sharp. It wouldn't stay like, oh my gosh, I need to get out of there. Okay, so that's how I do it. So if that is you, what you actually want to feel is, swing the leg back. The back leg doesn't have to be straight. So, whatever that you feel most comfortable with. Front leg, just see how that is. Do you feel a stretch in the outer hip and outer thigh in this area, in this angle, with the front heel closer to the pelvis of the opposite leg? If you don't feel much, then maybe, shift a little bit more forward and see. What's more important is your knee. If your knee feels okay, if your hip doesn't feel anything, then go for it, right? If your knee feels, that feels odd, okay, maybe back off a bit. Okay? Or maybe, place a towel on the back of your knee. Okay, if there's compression, if there's too much of a compression. Okay, if you feel like I'm here but I'm leaning over to one side, then maybe you just want to prop yourself up. Okay, making sure that the knee, the angle is not that important. You want to feel wherever you are, the stretch is even throughout the entire body, entire area that's being stretched. You can feel the ground and you can actually sit down quite comfortably. If you are here, you're like, oh my gosh, I can push the leg all the way out, but then I cannot even sit down. I feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to balance. I cannot even breathe. Then just back off a bit. Another way, if this traditional way of doing pigeon is not the ideal way for your body for that particular day, you can always lie down on the floor and do eye of the needle. So you can do it like so, okay? Or maybe even place the foot against the wall, which is something that I really like. If you don't have a wall, you can hug, okay? Maybe just wrap the arms around the back of the thighs, Again, you can bring the opposite thigh closer to the body if you want to, physically intensify the stretch in the outer thigh and the outer hip in the bent knee. Okay. Some people like to flex their toes, some people like to relax. So that's one part of pigeon. However, if you're using pigeon pose as a prep to help you open up the hips for something deeper, let's say leg behind the head, flying pigeon, flying grasshopper, all those like crazy stuff, then the previous things I've said, they don't count anymore. Okay. If you're aiming for much deeper hip openers, as mentioned just a little bit before, then the knee needs to be out. The shin bone needs to be out. Okay. Again, that's just the nature of it, because your goal is to do something even, that requires more mobility, range of mobility in the hips than in a pigeon. So let's say if my aim is to have the leg behind the head, then there are requirements, right? Sorry to say, but there are. So this is, this is needed. Okay, if you can go even more, go. But then of course everything needs to work together. Knee needs to be okay because the hip needs to be opened up. So it really, really depends on your need. Okay, but then you need to, again, rewind, go back to stage one. How is your pigeon pose? If your aim is like, I want to put the leg behind the head, great, okay? Start with pigeon and just see how things are. If your shin bone is set at a 90-degree angle in pigeon and you're like, no, my knee doesn't feel comfortable, or I cannot sit down, I cannot ground down, I cannot breathe, then just back off a bit and just go back to that pigeon that you feel that you can stay there for a little while, and then eventually build up to that degree, and then maybe, with help of other shapes and also with the guidance of a teacher, then eventually maybe you can put the leg behind the head. But then the main thing is, don't force yourself into any one shape, especially for shapes that are physically challenging. They might take quite a bit more time. So time means patience. Patience means, awareness and understanding. So all these elements do add up if you are aiming to do something a little bit more on the physical challenging side. Every body is different, and even for the same body, the mood changes. So back to myself, when my hips are okay, I tend to quite enjoy doing hip stretches, but then not every day. I could, do the same shape. Other days I would just kind of chill in that I have the needle pose, which I really, really like. So play around with it and be flexible with your practice. Okay? As long as you're being mindful, conscious of how you practice, then everything is a gain. You won't waste any practice. That's it for my sharing for today. So I'll see you again soon. Take it easy.